Working together to make Leon County safer. All in. All in. Woo!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the LCSO podcast. I'm your host, Javonni Hampton, and today we are welcomed by Deputy Simpson, who is embedded into the Leon County Sheriff's Office. From my understanding, he was actually recommended to be on this show, so I know he has a lot to share. Welcome.
No pressure. Ms. Javonni, thank you so much for having me. It's my honor to be here.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I grew up over in Jefferson County.
Nice. And where did you go to school?
I went to Jefferson County High School, graduated from over there, and actually got my start in law enforcement over in Jefferson County with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office as a dispatcher.
Nice. How long were you doing the dispatch?
I was there for about a little over 2 years.
Okay.
And then I was hired at the Leon County Sheriff's Office at the Leon County Detention Facility.
What did it teach you in those early years before you came over to the Sheriff's Office?
From dispatch? Well, I think I got a lot of experience dealing with the public and talking to people that I hadn't gotten before that.
What made you want to transition?
Well, I can tell you very easily with that. When I was working there as a dispatcher, the deputies, I got to know a lot of the deputies that worked over there, and I would go out when I was off, during my off time, I would go and do ride-alongs with the deputies, and it didn't take long before the bug bit, so to speak. And next thing I knew, I was putting in to go to the academy.
Nice. And so from the academy, you started at the Sheriff's Office. On patrol?
No, I started at the Leon County Detention Facility.
Okay, so you started at the detention facility.
I started at the detention facility, actually, when it was in this building that we're sitting in right now. The main office, the administrative office, used to be the jail or detention facility for Leon County. And they were almost finished constructing what I still call the new jail over there. And we worked on the transition from the old facility to the new facility. What
do you think about this new jail?
Oh, it was great. I mean, it was state of the art at the time.
Yeah.
You had that, it was, not many people at that time were doing direct supervision. Now, when I worked when this facility was the jail, you had some direct supervision. We had, the dorms where inmates were housed, but the majority of inmates were housed on the floors of this building in what were called bullpens, which is the old traditional bars that you see on the old TV shows. And that's how it was done then. And of course, when we moved over there, everything was direct supervision.
What would you say are some of the memories that you hold with you from when you started at the detention facility that you carried with you?
Well, there's. It's funny, you do all sorts of things in this job and you end up forgetting more than you remember. But I think I remember one thing that I thought was kind of entertaining that I had. I was a pod officer at one point, and the thing about inmates is that they tend to like to run games on the officers that they're assigned with, or who they're assigned to. And they like to do things for themselves sometimes, and they had taken. I was doing an inspection one morning. It must have been like about 5 a.m. and inmates were all in their cells asleep, and I was just doing an inspection, looking around, and I went in the pantry area and I looked down and there was a box, and inside the box was a plastic bag, and so I opened the bag and there was this foul-smelling stuff in there. It was pieces of cake sitting in a bunch of fruit punch.
Oh gosh!
So they were making what's called buck, which is a method of producing alcohol when you're having to do it on the fly, so to speak. So they were making buck in that. So we found that and got rid of it for them. So
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So that kind of stands out. I remember that one.
Yeah, you remember that. Yeah, and that's pretty interesting. But most of your time, well, not most of it, because 30 plus years, going on 30 years, right? Or how many years?
Well, I've been with, I've got a total of 35 and a half years
35.
in law enforcement. That includes my time with Jefferson County. I've got a little over 33 years with Leon County Sheriff's Office.
That's amazing. 33 years. Where was most of your time spent?
The biggest block of that was spent in the crime scene unit. So I spent 2 years at the detention facility. From there, I went to patrol and worked in patrol for about 5 years. And then I applied to come into criminal investigations and the crime scene unit. Specifically, and I was able to transfer to the crime scene unit and worked there for about 13 years.
How was that?
Well, it was very interesting.
And for those who may not be familiar, because actually this is from what I can recall, this is the first interview where maybe we can go a little bit into like what happens when you work in the crime scene unit. You know, what do you experience? How does it affect your mental health? So for those who may not be familiar, what is the crime scene unit? Okay, so the crime scene unit is a unit that's specifically assigned to go out and support other units as far as investigating scenes, documenting the scenes, in multiple ways. You do diagrams, you do photography, you document in reports all of your observations at the scenes, and you collect evidence and preserve that evidence. So you have to learn all of the basics of chain of custody of evidence, how to properly document a crime scene through photography. And of course, when I started in the crime scene unit, you know, back then we did film cameras. We didn't have digital cameras back then. So we took all our photographs on film and we developed our own film here. We had a darkroom, actually had 2 darkrooms set up. Wow.
Downstairs.
Hang the photos up?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole thing. We had a crime lab, and then a hallway at the end of the crime lab led back to our dark rooms. And so we would go into the dark rooms, and we had one dark room that was dedicated to black and white photography and another one that was dedicated to color photography. So we mixed the chemicals, we developed the film, we rolled our own film, actually. We didn't even buy pre-rolled film. We had bought it in bulk and rolled it onto the individual rolls to put into cameras to take pictures. So,
tedious.
Well, it was, but it was a fun thing to learn because I had never done photography prior to coming here. You know, I didn't really know anything about it, and I got to learn all that. So, you know, and let me back up just a little bit, and I told you that we did color and black and white photography. So over the years, you know, technology has changed a lot in how law enforcement, you know, acts and how they do their jobs. Prior to that, some years prior to that, and I don't know exactly what year it changed, but all crime scene photographs used to be in black and white. And I think I was told at one point that part of the reason for that is that it took a while to get color photography accepted into courts because they were trying to avoid sensationalism. They didn't want to have these color, you know, vibrant photographs of these sometimes gruesome crime scenes to show in front of a jury because an attorney might be able to argue that you're affecting the jury's mind with that and sensationalizing it. So it took a while to get color photography into the courts. So, and I tell you, we did both color and black and white. We didn't just give up on black and white because it still served a purpose. With black and white photography, we used that for any time we had to photograph evidence in which contrast was very important. Okay, examples of that would be if we photographed a fingerprint or a tire track. Shoe prints. Those are, in those situations, you're using those photographs to provide to an expert who can hopefully make an identification off of those. So when you're trying to make an identification off of a photograph, you want the contrast to be the maximum it can be. And so you achieve that through black and white photography. it's too much to really get into how the brain perceives color versus black and white. But the black and white, you could see more contrast and details in the photograph than you can in the color photograph. So we did both. And then eventually, after I'd been there a couple of years, along came digital photography, and so we slowly, and when I say slowly, I mean slowly, transitioned into digital photography.
That's very interesting. And we're talking late
this was
80s,
late 1990s.
So
into
late
the 2000s,
90s, early 90s.
And so ironically, when I started in crime scene in 1999, and it wasn't long after that, or around that time, that the show CSI started gaining popularity, and so you started having a lot of public interest in crime scenes. So.
Yeah. Wow. So do you, outside of like work, is photography something that you enjoy?
I have done it some, not as much as I would probably like, and when I retire, I might pick it up and go with it a little more. So.
I mean, the pictures that you'll be taking this time will be a lot different.
Well, that's true. When I was in crime scene, I used to make the joke that, when people asked me to take photographs, well, he was a crime scene photographer. Yeah. Well, I was used to my subject not moving.
Yeah.
So that'll change a little bit.
Yeah. What was that experience like? Just having a team of individuals. Obviously, you could rely on folks then. Now, I mean, we have a mental health unit to support the law enforcement side of things, but back then, you didn't necessarily have that.
Yeah.
So how was it? Mentally
It could be. That's the thing. With crime scene, and I'll say this to any person thinking about getting into that. You're going to see some things that aren't too nice. I'll give you a story as an example. We had a deputy. Well, let me back up. I was on call this particular weekend. Okay. And the way that worked was, we worked a regular shift during the week, but then one person would be on call for a week. So it was my week to be on call. So I was on call that weekend, and it was on a Sunday afternoon. And my daughter had turned 3 years old, and we were at her birthday party. Okay. I got a call to respond to a scene, and one of our deputies that worked for us had accidentally backed over his 3-year-old daughter, and she didn't survive. And so I had to go to the emergency room and photograph her. And that was a surreal situation, dealing with that, and that's something I carry with me to this day. And I will carry with me the rest of my life. I'll never not think about that.
How many years after that did you stay in it?
In crime scene? A number of years. I mean, I didn't get out of it because of that. But that's just one of the things I'll always remember. That was tough, because it was hard for me to separate my own daughter being that age, and that happening. So and like I said, as you can imagine, you see a lot of gruesome things in the crime scene unit.
What do you think it's important, something that the community should know, that, what you see in front of you, person with the uniform and a badge, but the human side of that person, what can you communicate to the community just about being a human?
Well, it's just to remember that a person that you encounter in uniform is a human being. So they're just as good or just as bad as any other human being. There are bad apples in law enforcement, and we've encountered them. I've encountered them. That happens, just like any other line of work. You have good and bad people, and that's just the way it works. Now, we in this profession, we do our best to weed out the bad folks. And I think overall we do a pretty good job. But you're always going to have somebody there. I guess this thing is that I would suggest to people is just remember that you are dealing with a human being there, and that your view based on how society views law enforcement at this time in our history may or may not be completely accurate. And I think there are a lot of people, if they have, most people who are not in law enforcement don't encounter law enforcement that often, you know. But if someone has had, like, say, one encounter and that was a negative encounter and it left them with a bad taste in their mouth, for law enforcement officers, they can have a jaded view and kind of lump us all together as being that type of person, and that's just not necessarily the case. So I would suggest people keep in mind an open mind and understand that, you know, just because you had a negative experience with an officer at some point doesn't mean that there aren't, you know, 100 more that you'll encounter that you'll have a great experience with.
Right. Yeah, those are good points. That's really good to know. But you're here 33 years, 35 in law
Total
enforcement.
of 35, yeah.
Yeah. What's kept you?
I just feel like it's been a calling for me. I mean, from when I was a kid, I had interest in it. You know, the idea of, you know, trying to you know, be part of the good guys, you know, part of the people that help society. I think, you know, if you look at human nature, I think we've always, in history, there have been bad elements to society. And I like to think that as law enforcement officers, we're there to protect the rest of society from those bad elements.
That's good. And then I like to ask every now and then when I can sense that, like what you just stated about the calling and people being committed to protecting the people and serving the community. What, even with your career, outside of your career, what are some of the things that you value or your morals that you feel have kept you in the law enforcement field to even mention it as a calling?
First and foremost, I'm sorry, I can't talk today. First and foremost, I would say, is my faith in God. That's guided me my whole life, and ever since I was saved. So that would be the number one thing that I would say that guides me. And of course, I value family. That's very high on the pedestal for me. My family means everything in the world to me. So I've always been a firm believer in God, faith, you know, family, and then job. You know.
Yeah. Do they like what you do?
They do. Yeah. As a matter of fact, my oldest has gotten hired here with the sheriff's office, and he's one of our silver process servers.
That is awesome.
And
so you're a role model.
And my middle son has applied here, so he's trying to get hired as well.
That's great. So 2 boys.
2, and I have a daughter also, but thankfully she has sought a career in the medical field. So.
Okay. That's awesome. That is amazing. That's great. Anything that you're looking forward to, because now you are possibly, I don't want to say you're approaching retirement. I'll let you make that announcement whenever you're ready. But what are you looking forward to once you do retire?
Spending more time with family, you know, with my wife and kids. And, you know, let me back up. And, you know, I didn't mention my stepkids earlier. So now, you are way too young to remember a TV show called The Brady Bunch.
Well, well, it's hard to not know about The Brady Bunch. I watched it.
My wife and I lived a real life Brady Bunch.
Really?
Okay? Yes. We both were in our second marriage, and we both had 3 children from our first marriage.
Oh.
So when we got married, they were all young. So we raised all 6 of those kids.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so...
so how many boys, how many girls combined?
So, you know, and it worked out just right, because our 2 oldest boys are about the same age, the 2 middle boys are about the same age, and our 2 daughters are both, her youngest and my youngest, are about the same age. So it kind of worked out just right that way.
Yeah, so it was a nice balance.
And the girls they're all like, they don't even recognize each other as a step sibling.
Yeah.
It's their sibling, you know. The 2 girls actually went to school together to get their their medical schooling that they went to, and finished at the same time, graduated together.
That's exciting. So they are prepared for you to come home, have fun,
Absolutely.
be the fun dad, take trips, go to the beach, all those wonderful things.
All those wonderful things.
That's great. And then I don't want to leave off because you spent time outside of the crime scene unit, and you've moved in other areas. What were some of those areas?
Well, I worked in the financial crimes unit. And then from there, I transferred into the warrant and civil unit, which is where I'm currently assigned.
Okay, nice. What's been your favorite so far? Which unit? Crime scene.
Probably crime scene, just because I spent so much time there, and my knowledge base is more in crime scene. But I'm actually really loving working in warrants and civil. It's a great job. You know, it's been over the years. People think of it as somewhere where more senior deputies go towards the end of their career, but it's not necessarily true. There are we've gotten younger people in there recently, and that young blood's always good to have to kind of invigorate things. And I will say this about the warrants unit, you know, and just to throw this out there, because the name of it is the warrants unit, and yes, we absolutely serve arrest warrants, but that's actually represents a very small percentage of the things that we do. Right. We handle all sorts of different court orders that we serve. We serve domestic violence injunctions, ex parte orders, any kind of court order that comes out, then we serve it.
Oh, I looked into the most recent report. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the ex partes and just the civil warrants and just so many different moving parts.
There are.
Yeah, I would love to even just have another entire conversation about what's happening individually in those areas. Anything else that you'd like to mention or that you'd like to share?
I can't think of anything at the moment. I'm sure as soon as I walk out the door, I'll remember something that I didn't say.
Maybe.
But, you know.
Well, if you could provide just one takeaway for those who may be interested in law enforcement, could you share your thoughts with us?
People that haven't been hired yet, who are thinking about it, maybe as a career. Yeah. Give it a try. You know, it's a very rewarding career. You will not get rich as a law enforcement officer, or at least you shouldn't, if you're doing things above the board. You know? Right. But no, absolutely. If it's something you think about, the first thing I would suggest you do is go do a citizen ride-along. That gives you a great insight into what the job is like, and it kind of gives you some idea as to whether it's something you would enjoy doing or not. So anyone that's got a thought about doing that, I highly suggest doing a citizen ride-along to start things off, and then start looking into what it would take for you to go to the academy.
And then what about a lesson that you've learned?
Just over my career, or what exactly?
Well, yeah, just throughout your career in life. Or I guess maybe an even better question, how has being in law enforcement impacted your life overall?
Okay. Well, I would say one of the things I learned really early on, especially at my time as a corrections officer here at the detention facility, is you have to develop communication skills when dealing with people. That's probably the biggest thing I learned in that. And then when I left the detention facility and became a deputy, and I was out handling calls alone, you know, and sometimes your backup is miles away, you have to know how to talk to people, or you talk yourself into getting yourself hurt. You know, that's just the reality of it. And it's a dangerous job. And that's the saying. I will point that out to people thinking about it as well. Don't think it's not a dangerous job. It is a very dangerous job. But it's a very rewarding job. But one of the things you definitely have to be able to develop, even if you don't have it already, you got to be able to develop it. That's communication skills and being able to talk to people in a respectful way. And you can get a lot more accomplished that way than if you walk in and just try to be the boss. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the podcast. Now, what I didn't tell you is I like to do something called a speed round. What that's going to consist of is me asking you a few questions, and you shoot out the first answer that comes to mind. Okay?
Okay.
All right, great. First assignment or your favorite assignment?
Favorite assignment.
Favorite assignment. Most underrated unit in law enforcement?
Crime scene unit.
Patrol or investigations?
Investigations.
Crime scene or financial crimes?
Crime scene.
You already spoke about one case that you'll never forget. Can you describe that case in one word?
Tragic.
Coffee or energy drinks on a shift?
Coffee.
Day shift or night shift?
Day shift.
Biggest change in law enforcement over your career in one phrase?
Technological advances.
Paper reports or digital reports?
Digital reports.
CSI tape or body cam footage?
CSI tape.
Gloves or no gloves?
Gloves.
Gut instinct or evidence?
Evidence.
All right, that concludes our speed round. Thank you so much for joining us on the LCSO podcast, and I hope to see you around in the office.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.
Working together to make Leon County safer. All in